Hello, my name is Dan. Hope you're having a fantastic day. If you're new here, we talk about patient safety, quality, and risk in healthcare. If you're about that life, don't forget to like and share this video. Well, we're here today with Laurin Mooney. Her contact information is below if you'd like to follow up with her. So welcome to De-Risking Healthcare, Laurin.
Thank you for having me.
Supporting a learning process in an organization. Ideally, don't have one person at a time learning to do something. You don't have one person at a time trying to master a change in how hip replacements work, right? The government influences best practices coming to our organizations through a process where they are going to set a fixed amount of money the organization receives for doing a particular procedure. And in that way, they want to influence organizations to choose them a more economical path.
Yep.
Now, if you think about this, what we're really talking about could be accelerating the learning of organizations to take that knowledge to provide great healthcare at lower cost and cause the adoption to be increased. That'd be a very positive way to look at it. But that change requires funding. It requires funding that may show up in a doctor's salary, that they're doing fewer surgeries at the moment because they're researching this and how they can promote this change in their organization. To discover it at a conference, takes them going there for a few days, doing follow-up work, maybe visiting another hospital where the procedures happens. All these things have costs involved. So if you had your hospital take best practices from all over the world and apply them tomorrow, there probably is not enough funding to achieve that.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a continuous process over time. So if we talk about rationing, ooh, what a scary word, but rationing is happening all the time. Mm-hmm. You have this many patients on your floor and you're 2 nurses short. There's some kind of a rationing going on there, right? Your organization knows there's this best practice that's happening in other hospitals. Maybe the patients are even choosing to go to that other hospital, and you want to adopt that process. But so does other units in your hospital want to adopt other processes. So who wins? Who wins the rationing? The group that speaks up the most, the group that's losing the most amount of money if the organization was to think about this at a profit and loss level. Who wins that rationing? We know there's some kind of rationing going on. The young kid who's just in a motorcycle accident, who's mangled, showing up at our emergency room, is going to probably get more services than maybe my 80-year-old grandmother, and it should be that way. But rationing, it just happens in so many different ways. So how do you use that answer to go forward? And should we not go there?
Yeah, well, when I was coming, I was thinking about doing the podcast with you. I thought, well, I want to be deeply respectful of the fact that the financial part of what's happening is so tied in. And yeah, there's this nice bubble of, well, we can think and act this way, but then there's all these financial constraints, poking in from every side that is not my expertise at all, and I know is in play. So how do you how does everyone work together, realize, and we have the whole corporate thing, right? So, is this will healthcare ever really work as a for-profit? Who says, who knows? Is it something that can, work that way? I'm not saying any political view at all. I don't even really have one, except I do think that corporate desire for profits and the love of a family are both sort of infinite. And you put those together, and what happens? Are we going to become one big hospital in the United States? Sometimes everywhere you go is the next clinic and the next clinic and the next clinic. And I guess it's time to really step back and say, why are we struggling the way we are in the United States? What could be different? I was in Australia. This was interesting. And I went into a little shop to buy something with my son. And I met a woman who's Australian, originally from China. And she said, oh, I was just in Boston. My brother got hit by a motorcycle. Your healthcare system's terrible. She's like, I never seen anything like it. You need to fix this. I'm like, I'm trying. But I was kind of shocked, a little bit embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? But this leads to a really important thing that I'm passionate about. How are we going to fix any of this? And my belief is that we really need to look to other industries. And Kathleen Sutcliffe, who did a lot of the high reliability research, she's at Johns Hopkins now. She wrote a book a while back called Still Not Safe. Okay, so we're trying and trying. And she has been pushing for years, please get involved with the other industries. Please listen. And one of my goals is to be a bridge, because I've been out and about with these folks, oil and gas and nuclear and NASA. And you think, well, they're different. They're not a hospital. They agree, and they agree that we're more complex, but people working in complex systems in uncertainty, they have that too, and they've made more progress than we have. So what I'm pushing for is, let's look at what did it take for them to make a step from here to here. I think that's going to be a big piece of it, being open-minded and respectful of other industries.
Laurin, is setting and raising standards in a unit one method to raise patient safety? It could, maybe not, probably is what you would see. Have we provided people with what it takes so they can meet that standard? We have so many standards. It's one way. Is it the only way? No. So let's talk about what leaders can do to improve patient safety and the culture among the employees in their unit. One thing that comes to mind for me is raising standards. The standards could be how often you give a gift of speaking up about improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are other standards that could be raised?
Okay. I'm going to give you a radical answer to this. I wouldn't raise the standards for the employees. I would raise the standard for myself as a leader. And I would say the metrics are on me. How many times am I out asking them specifically, what do you need? What are your questions, concerns, and ideas? And what would you like to have happen? So that to me is one of the most powerful questions. It comes from clean language. It's a very respectful and power sharing type of question. I think employees are dying to be asked that. There's a wonderful gentleman, his name is Richard Knowles. He's written a book. He turned, it's a big chemical company, DuPont, I think. He had the safest factory in the United States. It was amazing. And he spent 6 of 8 hours a day out on the floor. And he was just like, guys, what's going on? What do you need? How can I help you? He was trustworthy. He did it. So I would say I would raise the metrics on myself. And I would say, how much information am I getting? What am I doing with that information? How am I networking across the organization to get these needs met? Because They don't have the power to get, there's certain things they can't do. How do I provide it? I had to talk to a nurse in Florida. She said, well, they're throwing, good system, actually pretty happy. They're throwing more money at us, but it's not what we want. I said, interesting. I said, okay, what do you want? She said, took her a long time to answer me. I said, how could it be different for you so that you're happier? And she said, when we were in the full heat of COVID and we were working behind the plastic sheets in the hall, and we would put all that equipment on, and I'd go in and the patient was so sick. And I was in there for an hour and a half because once I came out, I did change. She said, but right outside that plastic was my manager, was techs, was people saying, what do you need? And making sure I had everything that I needed to go in there and be the nurse that I wanted to be. And she said, I was happy. So I think it's about leaders getting more in touch with, I think, and I'm not going to give the manager, I'm not blaming a manager, the amount of meetings we have, right? So the time factor, do they have time to even be with their people? So yeah.
So being a strong leader is a tool.
It's a tool.
All right, Laurin, next, can you share with us some books that, we should be aware of if, we want to influence the improvement of patient safety in our organizations?
Yes, absolutely. So this one, Managing the Unexpected. This is the first edition. It's the yellow one, and you have to buy it used. This book changed my life. This book, I believe, has a huge amount of the answer of what it's going to take to make patients safe. And that's adopting a different mindset and adopting some different attitudes and learning some specific actions that I've sat with. So in this book, they talk about how they studied a nuclear carrier, and the captain is Admiral Tom Mercer. And I was sitting with him at a dinner one night, and I've heard him say it more than once. He's like, what's in this book? He said, the lessons in here, they were paid for with blood of our Navy. And he said, and they want to share them. And we're paying for our mistakes with blood as well. And so I think we need to deeply respect what they're trying to share in there. Second book.
Yep.
Fearless Organization. That's Amy Edmondson. Amy Edmondson, of course, is our, beloved global expert on psychological safety. A lot of the research in here has to do with what they found in healthcare. But the key part of her work that really influenced me is from a different paper. It's called Making It Safe. And it's about the effectiveness of leadership practices. And it says that an invitation and appreciation, this is a loose quote, an invitation and appreciation by a leader can take nature off its course by overcoming the challenges of the hierarchy. Okay, so the invitation and the appreciation by the leader can make the difference. And that's really where my speaking in ideas coming from these researchers. The research is there. Our practice does not align. And the conference?
Yes, share with us this upcoming conference. And first, remind us, what's the benefit of going to a conference that's not focused on healthcare?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All across the world, these other industries have been asking the same questions. How didn't we see this coming? How is it that we failed again? How should we view people in the system? What is it that leaders need to do to move the needle on safety? How do we work in uncertainty? How do you build a system that resilience engineering? People in healthcare, we talk about resilience, but we keep trying to squeeze resilience out of the workers. The resilience engineering is about building a system that can adapt and expand and extend to and accommodate surprise and can flex. Okay, so that it's a very fluid system. So at this conference, there's Bob, I got to tell you, I saw a article written by a co-planner. His name is Bob Latino, and he's a root cause analysis expert. And his blog, it said, and there was a piece of metal, I think it was a bearing, okay, on the top. And it said, what can we learn from the broken pieces? And it was this beautiful, clear writing about how they've studied, and what can they learn from these broken pieces? And I thought, look at the effort they put in. And I want to write another paper, and I want to call it, what can we learn from the broken people? And if we could study the broken people coming out of the healthcare system to the extent that these engineers study the broken bearings and and it was erosion. Here's what was breaking the pieces: erosion, corrosion, fatigue, and overwork. And I thought, wow, I mean, we're doing the same thing to people. So you can go and realize that people are looking at the same dynamics you are. You can look at what it took to shift an organization. A lot of culture stuff. Okay, people are people. It doesn't matter where you work. Doesn't matter where in the world you are. People have a need, right? So there's that. And we're trying to get healthcare people to this conference, and it's about how to better become a learning organization. And what I love about this conference is there's human performance, there's root cause analysis, there's trending, there's high reliability, and there's resilience engineering. And what we say is everybody's bringing something important to the table. It's what do you want when? And the other piece is healthcare is very focused on, to me, looking backwards, we do root cause, but that's just one part of safety. We have safety looking backwards, safety in the moment and the mindfulness, and then safety looking forward. So really just broadening your understanding of what safety is.
Can you tell me about the conference you're involved in?
I would love to. So for the second time now, I'm leading the high reliability organizing and resilience engineering track of an amazing conference that we have every year. Once again, it's going to be in Colorado, and this is the co-learning conference. So that's CHO and then the word learning.org. What's great about this conference is it gathers people from multiple industries and multiple safety approaches together to learn from each other. So there'll be power generation, chemical, pharmaceutical, tree companies, some healthcare, people from Russia, absolutely fascinating. And we're going to talk about the challenges that exist in every complex system. But more than that, we're going to look through we'll have human performance view, and Todd Conklin will be speaking. We'll have the very best and cutting edge root cause analysis. We'll be looking at trending. And of course, we're developing our high reliability organizing and resilience engineering track. The goal is it's really an application. You're going to come away saying, okay, I have a model. I see what they did. And you're going to meet people also from other industries who would be willing to help you. So June 13th through 17th. Each end is a workshop day, but the 14th through the 16th is the actual conference. Colorado.
All right. Well, there's the information right there on the screen below you. So why should we be at that conference, Laurin?
Well, that conference brings together some of the cutting edge thinkers and practices from around the world. So you can see, okay, what's the latest thing they're doing with their root cause? What's the best new ideas around how they're implementing resiliency into how do you make a system that can flex, something that we really need in healthcare? How do you actually change a culture? Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about I'm going to be presenting on speaking in and what does it mean to make a shift from a speak up culture to one where input is invited and included. I think we've worked long and hard to solve our problems inside of healthcare, and we have people waiting without ideas out there. And I think that we're going to be surprised to see how well many of them translate.
All right, so Lauren, you were sharing with me that leader therapy can be a tool. Would you like
Yes.
to share that with our audience?
Yes. Well, I really think that being a leader is a super tough job. And the key thing to being a leader is to learn to love all news. And that's good news and bad news, and being willing to be the imperfect leader who's overseeing an imperfect system with imperfect people. And then saying, how are we going to succeed despite this? Who do we have to be? Because it's not just about what do we do, but what type of person do I have to be a leader in this type of complex, imperfect system? And then start adopting those things. And they're counterintuitive. Being humble and saying, I don't know everything. Being super open-minded when you really want to push that other stuff away. Being curious, and, being forgiving of yourself and others. I mean, but if there's a lot of peace when you get to the truth, and that's the only firm footing to make progress from. So until we're leaders who are ready to hear the truth, no matter what it is, we are stuck. So
What does it look like? What does it look like when a leader's making that conversion?
Whew. Well, what does it look like when a leader's making that conversion? I think you have to accept, you have to have self-compassion. You have to realize you can't do it alone. So the social psychology behind success. So I think of that phrase, safety starts with me, right? But it totally depends on we. Safety, this is a team sport. One person can't do it.
Let me ask the question differently then. How about how do you start the therapy?
Okay. Okay. Dear Mr. or Mrs. Leaders, how do you feel about hearing news that you didn't want to hear? What happens inside of you? How do you do? Tell me how you feel when you have to welcome new information that you don't like. What do you do with it? What do you do with it, Dan?
I cringe.
It's emotional. That's the thing. So much. We're emotional beings, and emotions are what we're making our decisions from much of the time, right? Doesn't matter what job we're in. And we have to factor that into everything we're doing, that we have to take care of the emotional part. And so I have great respect for leaders that are listening and managing these big organizations, but the more you can listen, the better, and accept what's true, the better. So yeah, how do you welcome new information? And that's the first part of it.
Well, I made it clear that everyone's welcome through my door to bring their problem, as long as they bring a solution.
Okay. What if they don't have a solution? You sure about that?
It might not be the best approach, but it brings a lot more solutions with problems.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Right. Because I know there are always that you can get into a complaining mode, and we've all seen it in work. But how do we get into like a problem solving mode and just celebrate, like accept the problems? They're natural. They're coming. They'll be there every day. Failures happen every day. We have to fail safely, but we will fail.
There's a semi-famous book called Traction where part of it is you take in the problems without the solutions, and you prioritize those problems, and you look to solve them in a dedicated phase. And then over time, some problems just bubble out because they're solved along with other problems. And there's a whole methodology out there I'm probably not giving enough credit to. That's different than bring your solution with the problem.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a couple people to solve a problem. The answer could come from an unexpected way, but I think normalizing problems is a big step. I think we say, okay, we've got the perfect system, we've got it written up, and we're going to be in strategy meetings. Could you guys could just speak up if something happens to rise to the surface? That it's not really like that. There's always going to be issues, and I think we have to just expect them.
All right. Can
All
I
right.
bring you back for another recording?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I would love that. That would be wonderful. I would be honored.
All right. Hey, thanks for listening. If you want more, be sure to click like or subscribe. If you'd like to appear on our program, be sure to fill out the SurveyMonkey below. Most important though, if you know someone who should hear this video, please forward it to them so that together we can all work to make healthcare just a little bit less risky.